them allowing us to be here. Again, we're going to start in just a couple minutes. You're welcome to get settled. If you need any water or anything, you still have time for that. What I did want to make
project, a comprehensive operational analysis that Montebello Bus Lines has been working on the last past year. So this setting will be a bit more relaxed than a typical council setting. We'll run through the presentation, and if you could please hold any questions until the end of the presentation, that'd be great. We will run through the presentation and then do a Q&A right afterwards with any questions that you might have. We could always jump back to the slides. If you do have a question on a specific slide, just the number will be noted on the bottom right. After that, if there's anyone that does want to give a general comment on the issue, we could, after the Q&A, we could do something after that. Sound good? So at this moment, if I could please ask you to silence your phones, just meanwhile we do conduct the presentation. Thank you. So as mentioned, my name is Alfredo Machuca. I'm the transit planner with Montebello Bus Lines, and I'll be giving you a brief intro of what Montebello Moves is. So Montebello Moves is the name of our comprehensive operational analysis that Montebello Bus Lines has conducted over the past years in the effort to have a detailed view of the Montebello Bus Line system as a whole, MBL by its acronym, so we'll be calling it MBL moving forward, evaluate transit needs and opportunities that might present themselves, identify community priorities, and to make recommendations to make MBL more efficient, effective, and sustainable, ultimately outlining a 5-year service plan for service improvements and expansion. Over the last year, Montebello Bus Lines has conducted various methods of public outreach, including rider surveys, online surveys, pop-up events at community events, posting flyers on buses, virtual public meetings, stakeholder discussions, the setup of a project-specific website, and outreach via social media. And they could be seen on screen right there. Before you use our project schedule that shows an outline of the making of our comprehensive operational analysis. As seen on screen, the analysis has been worked on the past year, starting in last year, July, And it's been going on for around a year now. The 3 stages can be seen on screen, and currently we are towards the last stage of our analysis, which is the recommendation. And at this point, we would be making a recommendation towards council and have them decide whether they want to move forward. That stage being recommendations and the strategic plan moving forward. The existing network, our current network provides extensive coverage with strong regional connectivity. Service primarily runs on arterial streets, and the system as a whole is intuitive, with the majority of the lines running north-south and east-west, mostly running on major well-known arterials. And you can see right here a picture of our system map with key points of interest. Montebello Bus Lines carries over 4.5 million riders annually, with Line 10 and 40 operating every 15 to 20 minutes. Line 10 and 40 also constitute approximately 70% of total system ridership. And you can see the bar graph indicating weekday, Saturday, and Sunday service for each line respectively, 10 and 40 being the most used. The proposed route changes within the Montebello Moves comprehensive operational analysis include extension of Line 10 into Cal State LA, extension of Line 30 to the South Pasadena Metro Gold Line, also known as the L Line station, the reduction of inefficient routes such as the discontinuation of Route 60, Passants, and the removal of the La Mirada segment of Route 50. Also the simplification of operations of Line 50, having the line being split into Line 50 and 55 in order to provide more efficient services. The recommendation being made is to have Route 60 be discontinued by winter-spring 2023, which would be around late January 2023. We are currently working alongside the City of Pico Rivera to arrange alternate transit options, such as dial-a-ride. As a refresher, the City of Pico Rivera is still serviced by Line 266, Rosemead Boulevard, a line that runs north-south with more frequent services and is approximately half mile away from the current alignment of Line 60. Montebello Bus Lines will continue to serve the City of Pico Rivera with Line 10, Whittier Boulevard, Line 40, Beverly Boulevard, and Line 50 to be hopefully changed into Line 55, Washington Boulevard. And you can see the proposed changes on screen with the existing on the left and the proposed on the right. Circling back with the Line 60's characteristics, it completely operates within the City of Pico Rivera, and it's typically neighborhood-oriented, running weekdays only from around 6 a.m. to 4:20 p.m., and every bus passing 75 to 80 minutes. One thing to note about Line 60, it is one of our only lines that deadheads into service, which means that there is no revenue service on its way to get to the route to start being serviced. Ridership is highest around school start and end times, something you can see depicted on the table on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side table, you're able to see the average weekday ridership by year. On the right-hand side table, you will be able to see the average weekday, and we were conscious that COVID might have skewed these numbers a little bit. So instead of looking back 3 years, we decided to bring it back to 2017 just to capture what ridership was looking like overall. Overall, the national trend with bus services have been declining ridership, not just in LA, but in other parts of the country. And between 2017 and 2019, we could also see a decrease from around 560 passengers per weekday to 435, which is a 125 passenger decrease within the span of 2 years. On the left, you could see that the most times the line is used is during the start and the end of the school day, approximately around 7 a.m. and at the 16th hour. A disparate impact and disproportionate burden analysis was conducted to ensure compliance with any major service change. This is according to our Title VI program report, a report that is submitted to the Federal Transit Administration every 3 years. Taking the population within a quarter-mile radius of the route into consideration, less than 10% of the population within our system-wide service area would be impacted. That meets our threshold of 20% as established by Montebello Bus Lines Title VI program report, which again was submitted to the FTA for approval every 3 years. In summary, Line 60 has historically had a much lower ridership than most other Montebello bus lines. Most Montebello bus lines operate longer distances along major arterial streets. Shifting those resources into our major lines would enable Montebello bus lines to increase service in higher demand areas. And discontinuing service would reinstate that parking that was lost due to facilities such as bus stops. At this point, this concludes my presentation. And if we would like, we could move forward with the question and answer by raising your hand, and we'll be going by the order received. Does anybody have any questions regarding this? The lady in black?
Yeah, you mentioned 135 passenger decrease in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Was that including the COVID years?
No, that was regular. So
So I
2017?
couldn't see the numbers up there.
Got it. So let's go back to that. So 2017, I'm not sure if you could see, but from 2017, we went from 560 to 2019 to 435. So even though it's called COVID-19, it really started March 2020. That's when it will really hit. But even then, that was a 125 passenger count decrease. Who had a question over here? Yes.
Thank you. My name is Russell Castañeda Galleros. I represent Rio Hondo College, and I want to thank Montebello Bus Lines for being such a good partner for many, many years through our Go Rio bus transit program for our students. And I also want to thank the city of Pico Rivera for hosting as well. My question has to do with your service equity analysis finding slide. That slide is very busy, and I was trying to. No problem.
There we go.
I'm trying to process the information here, and so maybe later on, if I get a copy of the slide presentation, that'd be wonderful.
Definitely. So I could give you a very simple overview right now, but what we could also do is I could provide you my email address, and then you could always email me directly.
And I'd like to ask a question, and if it's answered already in the slide,
Mhm.
Forgive me. My question has to do with how you define equity. I want to make sure that when you say things like less than 10%
Right.
of our ridership is impacted, our population is impacted.
Right.
What I'd like to know is of that 10%, what is a profile? Are they low-income folks, working class folks,
Got it.
people of color? And so I want to make sure that we don't have a disproportionate impact on any part of the population that is already vulnerable to a lot of the effects of the pandemic and inflation. So those are the questions that we at the college would really be interested in.
Absolutely. So, like I said, I'll give you a more brief version, but if you want a more detailed part of the analysis, I'm more than welcome to share. Is this on? Hello? Okay, sorry. I'd be more than happy to share that via email.
Thank you.
So the Title VI program from the FTA requires us to conduct an analysis to make sure that we're not creating both a disparate impact, which would be on the minority population, and a disproportionate burden, which would be on a low-income population. So we're looking at both sides of the aisle, right? That comparison is made against the population that we serve as a whole. So we're looking at a system as a whole and what impact that's making to the system as a whole. Transit agencies, at least the ones that receive federal funding, are required to submit what's called a Title VI program report, which includes its language assistance and public participation plans. Those plans have to be accepted by the FTA in order for us to qualify for federal funding. The last FTA Title VI program report we submitted established a 20% threshold for what would be considered a disparate impact or a disproportionate burden, the first being minority population and the second being low-income population. So if we hold that 20% So no population more than 20% can be burdened or impacted from the system as a whole, right? So moving forward, we took a quarter-mile radius from what the alignment is, and we compared that to the system as a whole, and we've determined that no more than 20% is being impacted. As a matter of fact, no more than 10% than the system as a whole is being impacted. Oh, and then afterwards, if you'd like my email, then we could touch bases on that. The lady in the back.
Hi, my name is Pamela. You are the Parks and Rec Director
Mhm.
Pico, Rivera. My question is, I understand that you were trying to do this in 2023, but you just cut the service this past year, this a couple weeks ago without notice. You shortened the length, the time frame for the kids when school started, so it really negatively impacted kids again a couple weeks ago. So I was just wondering, why did that occur and not happen in 2023 like the slide suggests?
Right. So, so there's multiple ways to addressing this, I suppose. One would be staffing shortages, and that's not just us, that's most operators nationwide. We simply don't have the staff to run these buses, which would be the first portion, right? The second portion is COVID hit most operators as well. Service was reduced comparison to pre-COVID as well. And while we try our best to serve the community's needs, there's only so much we can do as a bus operator with a limited amount of resources as well. Service was cut during COVID. When I was at its peak, it was reinstated then. When service was cut during COVID, it was more of an emergency situation, which is really out of our control. We did reinstate, but we're not seeing that ridership anymore. And the ridership was already declining to begin with. So the recommendation was to discontinue the line.
So I understand, but you shortened the line even more a couple weeks ago without notice to the residents. It just occurred a couple weeks ago.
But when you say shorten, do you mean shorten time of service or shorten the actual alignment?
The time of service. So for example, if the bus was supposed to be there at 6, we had children waiting
Right.
out on the street and they were waiting in the line. The bus didn't come because you had shortened the time frame on that day.
Our system goes through 4 reschedulings a year, and we typically do put out notices of when we do reschedule, and those schedules should be on the buses as well. Maybe I want to say it was perhaps miscommunication, but those schedules were on those buses when that occurred. The gentleman up front.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Javier. I'm the Director of Innovation and Communications for the City of Pico, Rivera. Thank you, first off, for coming out to do this presentation for our community. As you can see, there's a lot of interest in what's happening with this entire line. My question is with respect to the service equity analysis findings, beyond the good faith exchange of information between 2 cities. We also entered into an MOU between the 2 cities. Part of that was to definitively provide information back and forth. And I know that one of the things that we had requested multiple times was exactly this analysis. So I'm really happy to see that you guys have done that. However, this is the first time any of us see it. I'm just going to ask today if you guys could immediately after this meeting send us all of that documentation for us to review and opine and analyze ourselves. If we could do that, that'd be fantastic. We'd love to see not just the findings, but the raw data and the analysis itself, and then of course all the conclusions and recommendations that resulted from that analysis.
Without going too much into detail in terms of our MOU between the 2 cities, right? If you'd like to talk afterwards about what that MOU says and Montebello's responsibilities on the handling of Title VI, that would be a different story. If you'd like to hang out maybe a little bit afterwards, but we could try to arrange something to provide that data.
Sure.
All right. Yes?
And furthermore, I think that because I'm not sure that this community was given that opportunity to really express their concerns and provide that information and see what your report is, if you consider at least going to the end of the school year and have, give us the opportunity to plan with the city an alternate solution to this problem.
Right. So as mentioned earlier, this analysis has been going on for a year now, a bit over a year actually. And we've been in talks with the city of Pico Rivera regarding the aforementioned subject. This this on its own is a recommendation being made to our council. Nothing's going into effect until they approve. I just do want to mention that. However, I will take note of it, and we could always bring it up during a meeting. Yeah, no problem. There was someone over here with a question, I believe. Sorry, give me 1 second.
Hi, it's Natalie Glassman, analyst for the city of Pico Rivera. You had mentioned that an option would to be to look at Dollaride to service the passings. However, as you know, Dollaride is just for the senior and disabled community. So how would you suggest then for Dollaride to offer service for the student community?
We're currently in talks with not just City of Pico Rivera, but the El Rancho Unified School District. So we're looking at various options in terms of alternate services, but for now, that's what we're in discussions with them. So it's still, Dial Ride would be more of, students are more than welcome to use it, however, it would,
For Dollaride, because it's for the senior and disabled.
right, but it's primarily for the seniors and the disabled. Right, so we're currently in talks with El Rancho Unified School District to see what alternate transportation solutions we might be able to come up with.
And I'd like to, sorry, thank you for, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Thank you very much for that. My name is Russell Dundal, I'm Director of Student Support Services for Rancho Unified. I've talked to your office several times because of the concern with our students not having that availability of the bus line. I've not heard any conversations, it could be that somebody else,
Mhm.
but I have not. So just so that we understand and you were clear about that. Ms. Mejia, I don't know if you wanted to say something.
If I may?
If the gentleman allows, yes.
Absolutely, she had her hand up.
Okay, definitely.
Thank you. My name is Esther Mejia. I'm a board member and also a resident of Pico Rivera. I'm a parent, and I just want to share a little background. Back in the 80s, we used to compete against Montebello. It was called the Whit-Mont League. And there was always a rivalry, but there was always respect. Always respect. We had great competition, but always respect. This process does not seem respectful to our community. At the past meeting, I stated that your Title VI program, yet you fail to notice the meetings in Spanish. That's disrespectful to our community. You fail to state that you're discontinuing the line. You're just saying there's a town hall with a little QR code. Some people that are riding the bus do not have access to a QR code, to a phone to read that QR code. I appreciate very much that you're here doing this presentation for our community. However, I don't feel that it's been a transparent process nor respectful to our community. At the last meeting that you had, I had mentioned that the district invested $24,000 into the Gold Pass so that our students could ride the bus. Please give us that opportunity to create the next generation of riders as is intended by the Metro system. As a matter of fact, Montebello Bus Lines is part of a transportation partner with the Metro. Their Metro strategic plan states, their 2028 mission plan states that transportation plays an integral role in supporting vibrant, prosperous communities and in enabling individuals and families to access jobs, essential services, education, and other social and cultural and recreational opportunities. That's what public transportation does. It does create opportunities. Back in April, that wasn't the finding. That was not the recommendation. So again, I don't feel that's transparent because the recommendation that is on YouTube states that you would consider combining the 60 and the 70. That's an option. For you to do a 180 and say, we're discontinuing, again, it's very disrespectful, it's not transparent, and it is affecting a community of color. So I'm asking you to please let our residents, students have access to transportation, to mobility, and to higher education. Because I know that there's talk of having a direct line going to Rio Hondo College, going to Cal State LA, going to East LA College. Please give our students and our residents that opportunity. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you.
I'm next.
Yes.
So, my name is Jorge Mata, and I'm a resident of Pico Rivera. And, this is very disturbing what I'm hearing. I mean, your comments are, we've already have a recommendation, and now we're going to have a presentation to you. Basically, what you're saying is, it doesn't matter what you say. We already may have our recommendation. I mean, imagine if someone did that to you. That would be, you'd have a toxic reaction to it. The other thing that I'm saying is that, this presentation, is this the first time this community has seen it?
We had a virtual presentation as well. I'm not sure if any of the residents were.
So, yeah, because you mentioned that there was this whole outreach, right?
Right.
But who, where, right? I mean, we need some numbers. You know, I mean, there's all these tricks, right, on how you can meet the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law, right? And the spirit of the law is we want community input to guide the decision maker. And I'm sorry, you know, I know the people that use those buses, right? And tell you something that really is disturbing to me is during this whole process, I and several of my family members called to the Montebello line and complained. And what we were told was, no one has complained. You're the first person. Now think about that. You know, I have 3 or 4 family members calling, and they're all told the same thing. Now, without that correlation, without that coordination, if I didn't know those people, we'd all be saying, well, it must just be me. You know, maybe there's nobody riding that bus. So this is very disturbing to me because that means all 4 of us were lied to, right? That is not how you build trust. That is not how you build respect. And by the way, you aren't taking federal money. You're taking my tax dollars and then servicing somebody. I can see how this benefits Montebello. I can see how it benefits that company, but I don't see how it benefits our community, right? And I'm sorry, I see the people that are there. It's elderly people taking children to the schools. As your slide indicated, there's a peak. And what are you doing? You are impacting disproportionately the educational system. So that's our future. If you take that out of play, I mean, what's happening is those people are now having to find alternate ways to get back and forth, and you are stealing time from their study, right? Because that's what's happening. There's less minutes for them to study. And I'm sorry, COVID is already stolen enough time from them. I don't think that's the right way of doing this. The other thing I don't know is, when you restored the service, did you restore the timeline? Was it restored to the previous schedule before COVID?
No.
Exactly.
As mentioned earlier, we have lost many bus operators.
Yeah, but let me explain why this is a problem. You are sabotaging the people. If a service is not there when I need it, then I don't value that service, right? So your input is going to be like, well, I mean, why would I want something that only comes once every 2 hours or every hour? It doesn't meet our needs. So the ridership drops, right? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You guys have rigged it so that ridership will drop, right? It's like, I'm going to open a restaurant, and I'm only going to serve at 2 in the morning, and then lo and behold, nobody comes to eat there. See how this is very disturbing to a community? So that action was taken by you, not by me, not by this community, but then you turn it around and you justify further action. And I don't think that sits well with anybody, right? So partnerships are not this, right? This is not a dialogue. This is you finding a community very upset about something. And I agree with what the other folks are saying, that the people that are most affected are the least likely to participate. There's people with probably language, physical barriers, other things, right? Economic barriers. They don't have the time to come here. So that's my comment to you. I hope you guys are documenting because I don't seem to be writing anything down.
This is being video recorded.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Hopefully your board members will also look at this and say, hey, this is something that needs to be addressed. And we don't want to get into a toxic relationship with our partner cities, right? I mean, we can all start taking pot shots at each other. That's not constructive, right? Anyway.
Thank you for your comment. The lady up front.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Perez, resident of Pico, Rivera. Going back to one of the slides where you're talking about the different bus lines that, in this case, would still stay open, looking at Paramount, looking at Beverly, again, all the different lines that are still looking to stay open.
Right.
One of them was mentioned that's only half a mile about from where we're at now, up to the 60 line. But I'm just thinking, for someone that depends on the bus, we're talking kids, we're talking elderly. My mom, she doesn't drive. She is carrying groceries for half a mile. It's not fun.
Right.
So I'm just thinking, there's different scenarios why the bus line is so important. So my question is,
Right. So this, like I said, this is just a recommendation. Nothing will come into effect up until our council approves the changes.
Again, so my question is, what can we do to prevent that from happening? So as when the board is gonna be deciding, like, can the board support in getting the community to, okay, let's get the word out more? Like, what can be done?
At this point, we're at our final recommendations. So there's not real, we've already done that outreach for the last year. So between now and when we take it to council, that would be a time frame. However, it would be up to the council, like I said, whether they want to accept the changes. I believe someone else had the gentleman.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Dominic Sarabia. I used to be a resident of Commerce, so not technically part of Pico Rivera. But I came here for most of the service changes done to other lines. Also, line 50's cut with 55 that I can't approve of because that also leads into Pico Rivera and having to stop into Montebello Metro Link or wherever it gets up to transfer to 55. I can't appreciate that, but I remember back when we had the survey, there was rumors about if 60 being connected to line 10. And I also came here trying to add on with what I want for 60 as well. Is it okay if I talk about the service changes for my idea of 60?
You're more than welcome to.
So I also have papers for every single line. But for 60, I was thinking like to increase service popularity, not only combine it with line 70 to go to the shops in Montebello, but also to replace a line from Metro's next gen idea, which discontinued line 176 and replace it with line 287. That service between Montebello, Almonte Station, and Arcadia Station. I'm thinking like extending 60 up to Almonte and Arcadia to have service to line 70, which is a bus that goes from downtown LA to Almonte, and has a more prominent service, and a lot of people ride the line. There's a lot of people at Almonte Station. I actually was just at Almonte Station recently when I came down here. Yeah, that was about it.
Got it. Thank you for your comment. The gentleman in the back.
Yes, my name is John Contreras. I'm a resident here as well. I think what we've heard, instead of reiterating everything, is a major concern of what's going on. And I mean, a great point was brought up by this gentleman. Instead of decreasing the hours and the bus line itself, why not try to increase it to more destinations so that you get more ridership? It's a very good point he brings.
Also, I also
yes,
want to add
go
to
ahead.
that as well. I forgot to mention, I also want to, for line 60, to have a 24-hour service between Montebello and Almonte, and have service from at least 4 to 1 a.m. between both Montebello and Pico Rivera and Almonte and Arcadia.
It'll be noted.
And
Thank
now,
you.
as stated by each one of these people that spoke, you have very large representation from the school board, from the city, in general. So that's the representation that's going to be affected the most are the students and the elderly that take these bus lines. I know, and from what I hear, that the ship has sailed, but at least in your recommendation, what the consensus here taken is, please give us more time to find what we can do in order to remedy, if you are going to be taking or canceling this bus line, what we can do as a school district and as a city to be able to help the students and the elderly that use these bus lines the most. We're asking to give us more time and not cut this line off in January, because that's going to greatly affect the majority of the ridership, which are the students. And it's not only the El Rancho. You have about 10 schools, and all the way down from preschool to middle schools to high schools, going up and down this line. Not even mentioning the shopping centers that are along Passings as well. It's going to be, they're going to be affected also. And as the young lady stated, a lot of these people use them to bring their groceries home. So walking a half a mile, like you stated, from Rosemead the passings in the hot sun that we're encountering, it's only gonna get hotter, is very dangerous, and it's gonna affect these people very gravely.
Right.
So what we're basically asking is to give us more time to find a good remedy in your recommendation.
Got it. So just to add on, I know groceries have been brought up maybe 2 or 3 times. Dial-A Ride does provide door-to-door service, just
Not to students.
not to students, but to the elderly. I do want to mention, or the disabled. But no, your comment will be taken into consideration, and we'll try to bring it back and see if,
Thank you.
if possibly something could be made. Sir?
I know I already spoke, but I have just one other comment if I may.
Sounds good.
I'll be really quick. I know that transit companies and cities have received, maybe more so the transit companies have received COVID relief funding from the federal government. And I'm wondering, and should try to be solutions oriented, is it possible for Montebello Bus Lines to partner with not only City of Montebello, but City of Rivera to identify maybe some type of partnership with microtransit providers like Uber or Lyft or anyone else that could help provide support to help provide rides to those that are gonna lose them along that passes corridor that we sit on. And if not, then would the funding that's received from the federal government help offset some of your losses for ridership so that you wouldn't have to make such a deep cut and remove the 60 entirely? So just a couple of related questions, with the intention of trying to be solutions oriented.
Definitely, and they'll be brought up in meetings just to be taken into consideration as well. Thank you. The lady?
I know you was gonna go to city council, and my advice would be to, the residents here is to go to Montebello City Council meeting. So they can, speak on when it goes to the agenda. Do you know when it'll be placed on the agenda in Montebello?
It'll be sometime probably in October. The best resource I could probably give you is to check the City of Montebello's website. We do post our agendas and go through them to see when that posting would be coming up.
And is that something that you would let the city know as being partners with that, when that would go, on the agenda, or you just want us to check the agenda?
We could try to partner up with City of Pico Rivera to see if we could provide that information. Yes.
Something else to consider when you go back for your decision with your council is that, and I keep going back to that data. And I know that you said it's, I think, 2017, right?
Mhm.
So another huge project that occurred in the city was the Durkee Corridor
Right.
project, which definitely affected the ridership. So I feel that the data that you have is skewed. Given that opportunity for our students and for our families to have this information, I'm sure we can increase ridership.
It will be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Marketing efforts were made to help promote, COVID obviously had an impact on the ridership. Was there any outreach to the district or any way or plans made to promote ridership, at least amongst the students? I know that we have our pass that was, what was that, $24,000 to give students riding passes that should go to June. Is there anything that can be done to help do that, to build the ridership again?
Currently, well, even with COVID, we actually had people go walk the streets to kind of get more input on what they wanted to see moving forward on the system as a whole. Currently, like I said, we are at that late stage within our recommendation. There is still that time gap between us making our final recommendation and us going to council to see if our council would be willing to approve said recommendation. But currently, I know the district did try to get that outreach out, but that would be the time frame moving forward.
And when is it going to go to?
Most likely October.
Is that an open meeting or is it closed?
Oh, they should be open meetings.
Will the council hear our comments, or are you just gonna consider them and incorporate it into your recommendation if you feel that they're relevant?
Within the report, we'll make sure that all outreach, whatever comment was made, does get across so that it's for their review.
So this video will be viewed by them?
W-
Transcript of it
The video.
will be made available to council?
It'll be public information, as a matter of fact.
Based on what I've seen, I feel they're not gonna see it. I don't know anybody else here, but I don't have a warm fuzzy feeling that they're gonna see it. I feel like it's just, it's atole con el dedo, you just, I don't know how to translate it in English, but it's like it's like a Jedi trick. These are not the droids you're looking for. Right?
I appreciate those comments, sir. No, excuse me. Our partnership here with the Pico Rivera to have this meeting tonight, again, was to have this recorded so that we could take it and not just have it, hey, for everybody here, it was great to hear you. As soon as you leave out the doors, everything that was here stays here. You know, this isn't Vegas. We wanted to have this recording so that way we can take it back to our staff. We can take it back to our council. Every comment made here is going to be heard. And to the point of our city council meetings, every city council meeting you see on the City of Montebello's website, unless, you know, COVID comes back up, monkeypox, the list goes on there, and you see a meeting has been moved virtually, anybody in the local community is welcome to attend these meetings, fill out a public speaking card. There are certain restrictions with those you want to make yourself aware with, just for speaking limits such as that. But you are absolutely more than welcome to attend, and your voice is heard there as well. Our council is absolutely open to hearing that.
Let me comment. My name is Raul Elias. I'm the city council person over here. A few months ago, I had the opportunity of meeting with the council, Montebello Council. This was a few months ago. This consideration, and I saw actually the plan. The problem that I had at that time was that I could not represent the city in that particular function or the district, so I was as an individual. And I asked the city council people to please give us an extension. And they did. They gave us actually 2 extensions. Okay, so they're willing to work with us, and they understand the need to establish a good relationship. They use our parks. They use a lot of our facilities and so on. So, there's, that glimmer of hope that we can, talk to them and, establish some kind of plan, because they've offered. They said, listen, we'd like to work with you and see if we could develop an alternative, okay? And again, all we have to do as a city and as a district, because what I did is that I reported what had occurred to the district and to the city, and we're in a situation right now of hearing it right now. But we've gotten 2 extensions. Actually, we've gotten more than it. The first time that the school district voted to cancel the busing system, it was the 60, it was the Montebello that decided they were going to pick up the ridership, on that. So again, what I have to do is I have to say that my experience is, and my experience with the council is, they're very receptive. And again, I think that we have to follow Mr. Contreras' recommendation, is that let's see, if we could get our heads together and come up with a plan.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
The lady?
If I may, since it's being recorded, and for the record, the district, board member, I have not received any communication, so I respectfully request if you could CC us, that way we see what communication has been had, because I have not seen anything. As a matter of fact, the day I received an email stating there's a meeting June 6th, and last minute, and I attended the meeting, so I was shocked. I was really shocked when they said it's going to be canceled, it's going to be discontinued. Then there was your meeting in this past August, and then just this one today. That's not enough. And yes, you did have a year-long study, but you didn't include us. And that's not, again, transparent. My hope is that you honor piloting something and be a good neighbor, and let's help each other. As council member stated, you do use some of our facilities. Let's partner. Let's find a solution, and let's not just keep this discontinued as the recurring thing. Thank you.
Thank you. The lady in the back?
Hi, my name is Christina. I'm a resident. I was at the meetings also that Esther Mejia. I just want to say thank you to Councilmember Elise for actually being there and being present and pushing that, because this is very important. I wish there was more people here, but I'm going to agree with everybody else that's saying it. Just the way that it was put out. I know the first meeting you guys had was in October, and I always call myself the Metiche parent. Like, I always find out, try to get information to other parents, and I didn't know about it until several months passed. In June, you guys had another meeting, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So at that meeting, you guys stated that this was a proposal I felt like when people started objecting to you guys reducing the 960 or terminating it, it was stated that, it's just a proposal, we're thinking about it, don't worry, nothing's gonna happen, kind of thing. So now, to jump to this last meeting you guys had in August, I was also online, my microphone was cut off, I was not able to speak. And I was putting my comments in the chat, but only one see, I got here late, I just walked in from work. So it's really hard. The schedule changes that were made, I feel like they were just made to completely impact people to say, well, we can't take the bus now because we're gonna be late for school. Or there's only one bus running at this hour. There's no reason for me to take it, I gotta find alternative options. So now those people are not around to say, oh, hey, I do ride the bus. Nobody rides the bus, we can't ride the bus because now there's only one bus and it'll make you late. As opposed to like before, I think that it should really be considered that now we have shops coming up on Whittier Boulevard, Betty's Discount and all the other shops that are coming up over there. We have Target, a lot of these that are frequented by people that live in Montebello. So like he said, it's a two-way, we're very close communities, we're very similar communities. So I would just really like to ask that you guys do not disrupt the service. In fact, I would like to see it increase. I feel like there's ways that we could reach out to the students, to the people that actually use the bus and say, hey, guys, the bus is back. Start knocking on doors. Do a full outreach project. I know that there's grants out there and stuff that we can use to promote this, and actually would be a good thing for not just us, but for you as well. So I would just like to say, speaking on my behalf and the parents that I speak to, do not terminate this with 60 because it's very detrimental to everybody.
Thank you.
A question about the half mile.
The lady, yeah.
Well, I just want to say, if it is considered in terms of allowing us to extend this time, that one of the problems is the hours. So our school starts later, and I did call, it was my understanding that the bus line had received this information last year, but it just wasn't enough time because you all require 6 months to make any schedule changes. So if you see that ridership is not the same as it was before in the morning, it's because of the times that the bus passes by and, drops kids off. Our kids start later now. So just taking that into consideration, see if we can get the bus line aligned to our hours. I was told that we do not operate based on school bell schedules, but that definitely also impacts ridership. If you want to improve ridership, you have to align it.
And just to comment on that, I do believe our current schedule was based on when the bell would ring for the start of school. And then there was the change, and we were not able to make a correction like that for that service change, but it was aligned with the previous school bell.
The gentleman raised his hand.
Question about that. You made a comment about a half mile, and I think, so that makes it sound like it's just a little bit of walking. Is that half mile, means that the line is 1/2 mile away?
Right.
Okay.
From alignment to alignment.
So in the best case scenario, my 90-year-old mother, if she lives right next to that line and wants to go to a shop on Parsons, a couple of miles away, she's going to walk a 1/2 mile to that new bus line, take the bus, walk a 1/2 mile to that store, walk a 1/2 mile back to the bus, take the bus back, and walk another 1/2 mile back.
In that instance, I would actually recommend dial-a-ride because it would be door-to-door service.
But that is an option, I'm saying, but not everybody will do that. But I don't want you to underestimate, that's a 2-mile difference. That's 2 miles of walking. And that would be for my grandmother or for my mother. But if a student wants to do that, they're going to be walking 2 extra miles. And that is in the best case scenario if they live right next to the line. If they live a 1/2 mile on the other side, now we're talking about 4 miles. And I want that on the record, that there are going to be people walking 4 miles extra if you guys cut that line down. It's not a little thing. I keep thinking about Marie Antoinette, right? Well, they have no bread. I'll let them eat cake, right? All of us that have cars don't consider people that don't have that mobility. I think we need to be empathetic, and I think that is my message to your board. Really consider, if that is your grandmother or your mother or your son, would you subject them to that, right? I think that the answer is no. We really have to be careful about what we're doing. And again, this is not just Montebello money, it's federal money, which means it's also our taxpayer money. I think that the gentleman did open up an interesting question. Maybe you guys can't apply for the grant, but maybe our city can. And
maybe you're limited on what you, but we can maybe tap into our federal money and then augment it and then make you guys whole. And that way everybody would be happy, right?
Thank you. The gentleman?
Yeah, just had a question about, you mentioned that there was a couple of other meetings that took place prior, virtual meetings. One in particular, March 17th, that took place, which was a presentation by the consultants that you guys brought on, transit professionals that do transit planning for a living day in and day out. They came up with a very, very meaningful solution, and that was to combine line 60 with line 70. It wasn't until several months later in June where we had a last-minute notification to participate in a meeting where we found out that that solution was no longer viable and no longer up for consideration. Can you please elaborate as to why that wasn't up for further consideration and why we found out at such a late stage in the public outreach process?
Yes. So we conducted a outreach between that time and even beforehand about the possibility, because one of the options was to combine line 60 and line 70. And a good portion of our ridership was actually opposed to the idea, which is why we ended up with this recommendation of the discontinuation of the line 60.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, that a good portion. I'm not exactly sure, that's very arbitrary.
Mhm.
What you mean by a good portion, is that 50%, 70%?
I believe-
10%? Either way, that, up for discussion. But one of the things that we asked for was, again, the raw data, right? So that we can better understand exactly what the survey results were, and how people actually responded on both those respective lines. Because if you ask somebody on line 10 who doesn't ride line 60 or line 70, right, it's irrelevant. So that's one of the things that we really want to get to the bottom of. And, frankly, we understand. You have a decision to make about the system as a whole. We just want to make sure that we understand so that we can communicate to our residents whether or not this actually makes sense for them, or it doesn't, for that matter. We want to be able to help you communicate, but we're left in the dark when it comes to better understanding what the decisions and the decision points are. And that's all we're asking for, and it kind of goes back to my original question. If you've done an equity analysis, please share that information with us so that we can better understand the decisions that you're looking to make and why those recommendations are what they are, so that we can then just either support or not, and from ultimately what we're trying to do is just be informed citizens, informed decision makers. We're finding out after the fact, we're finding out last minute. Proportionality is, arbitrary. So those are the kinds of things that we would just like to know well in advance. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I may piggyback on those comments, I invested my time on listening to those meetings. To that meeting specifically, there was no one opposed to that recommendation. As a matter of fact, Montebello residents advocated for that because they were concerned about our students as well. And that's what good neighbors do. They look out for each other. They were concerned. They were empathetic. And I was like, oh, wow, that's great. But these past couple of meetings, I haven't felt that empathy. I felt like there was a resident that asked, is this it? Can we do anything? And the callous answer that he received was no. And that was it. So again, I agree with what Javier said. Please show us the data. Please show us the reasoning why. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
Yes, my name is Marta Estrada, and I have a kid at Rancho High School. I also would like you to take the 60 line because we have kids, we have students, we have parents, we have family to use it. You say they can wear like some like Tamayo, or how you think with rainy days the kids can work on the rainy days? How you think in the ecosystem also, because when you take away the bus, it's gonna hurt the ecosystem. We're making more pollution if the people is gonna use the car. Also, I'm gonna work. My daughter is gonna use the bus. How I'm gonna be safe letting my girl coming walking like half a mile? I don't feel safe letting my girl walking. Please, if those board members are interested in helping people, taking care of the feelings of the people, your partner should be here listening. Severely, seeing the heart, how you wanna hurt the people when you take away the 960. You wanna hurt people, you wanna hurt the education. because kids are gonna be lazy, they don't gonna go work too much. You know, the kids doesn't like to work too much. You wanna take away the line system, they want to work, they're gonna be late school and tired, feeling sleepy, because they got tired of working. Also, you know, the weather, how it changes, too hard for them to work. When you plan to make changes, try to working on the hard weather, try working on the rainy days, and see, you partner, your board members wants to do that? No, I don't believe it. They have cars, but not everybody has cars. Please, listen to the community, help the education. We are to help in education, that's why we are here. You help education, you are educated, because maybe you have parents to move you, but not all have parents. So there is one mom with 3 kids, no dad. There is dad with no mother. So keep eye on them. And then they're coming out of the pandemic. Kids really, they feel bad. And then you take away more things, they're gonna feel bad. Don't do that, please. Listen. Help education. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have another question. So, did you consider the type of streets that are being crossed?
As in,
Yes, in your analysis, were the type of streets being crossed, the size of the streets, was that considered in the analysis?
the system was seen as a whole.
So the answer is no.
All streets were considered, but are you talking about Whittier, Washington, and
Hey,
Beverly?
Crossing Rex Road is no big deal, you know, just 2 lanes. Crossing, our students are gonna be asked to cross Slauson. You're gonna have elderly people crossing Slauson, crossing Washington. People are going 75 miles an hour through those streets, right? I don't think I'm exaggerating, right? They're crazy people. You know, you see the donuts there? So you need to consider the type of streets that you're asking people to cross. And as the lady mentioned, and now you're gonna cross them in the rain. I think you're gonna have more tragedies. We've already had, you know, kids that were killed on Slauson or in Telegraph, right, when they were crossing the street. This is just gonna add to the tragedies. So I think this is a big problem, right? And the fact that you're telling me you didn't consider the type of streets, not the same, you know? You have mobility issues, you may not be able to make it across in time. So that's what you're asking people to do.
Thank you for your comment. Does anybody else have any other comments?
Well, I do
Oh.
have something, if you're into like, kind of like a comment input style, yes.
Sorry, the gentleman in the back had one question. I believe that was the last question. We'll move to him, and then Miss, if you want to give a small presentation,
Yes.
we could do that right after. Sound good?
Thank you.
Yeah, so as I said, I came from El Monte Station, and I've gone to 266, which runs at least every half hour, not as frequent as like Line 10 or even Line 70 that runs from El Monte to downtown LA. It is a pretty long walk from Rosemead Boulevard all the way to Hassan's right over here. And I have seen how Washington is, along with like combining Line 6 with Line 70. I also thought it was like to replace Line 266 from Metro as a different route as Line 120 from Montebello Bus Lines. So you can have more frequent services every half hour, like what Metro is doing right now, 266.
Right. So I can't give much comment on a line that falls under another jurisdiction. I would refer you to that specific operator, but we'll take what you said into consideration for our services. And then, Miss, did you want to?
Yeah. Is there any way of me using that or no?
Let's try it out.
The microphone or no?
Give us one
It's on.
Is it on?
Okay. Okay.
Give me 1 second while I turn mine off.
All right. Hello and thank you for coming. Pico Rivera community, and as a neighbor to the Montebello community, come here to say, please do not discontinue Montebello Bus Line 60. Discontinuing Bus Line 60
Pico Rivera as a whole will be devastated and be at a loss without this transportation. The most impact will be our school students and families that ride and rely on bus line 60 daily. Bus line 60 is very vital to the school students and provides help getting students to school and home safe daily. Helps in keeping students safe due to traffic on the streets and predators out in the streets. Shelters them from the weather elements, hot, cold, rainy days. Helps students from not walking in the dark due to time change. Helps reduce the amount of absent to students because they have no access to transportation. Most important, bus line 60 helps get students to their place of learning and helps them in becoming productive persons. I am sure everyone here has heard of that saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Everyone here and every one of you are all included and needed in this village. So please take part and help raise a child. Together we can build a better life for one another. In addition to walking distance, people have commented. Now, these are children that walk from North Park Middle School to El Rancho, if need so. That is 36 minutes to get to El Rancho. That's 1.8 miles. And students that come from Rivera Park to El Rancho, it will take 40 minutes to get to their school, and that's 1.9 miles. And this does not include other students that live further away from the school. So I know Montebello is our neighbor, and like many say, we do have a lot in common, and I'm sure if their community would realize, and the board members should realize the impact that our students are going to have to take, this will not have to happen at all. And like that young man said, if the routes need to intertwine or something, or make them go further out, the 60 to get more passengers, but don't take the one that runs through our school system here in Passons. It's needed. It's always been needed, and it's going to always be needed. Do not take this away from us. I know you make comments about dial-a-ride, and it kind of sounds like you're making fun of the issue, but I hope you're not, and you kind of rethink on the remarks you are making to people that are actually telling you that it's going to impact their family, their mothers, their children. Please just listen, and hopefully they will listen and work with us as the community here. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any ending comments for the meeting? Yes?
Please also send the flyers to the community for them to know what you're trying to do. Because I just know it because Christina, she makes a share about to Facebook, and I am friends with her, so I can see what is going to happen here.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this. I hear it rumors, but I didn't know about this to the meeting until she said it.
Right.
Please, you want more people to see the need or use the line 60, send flyers to the community of Pico. And you're gonna have more people saying, please don't remove it, don't take away 60. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you. All right. Well,
Sorry, just one more. I know that you asked for the data over there from the city. If the district can also get that information, we'd love to see it.
Yeah, as soon as we get it, we'll happily share that with you as well as our own respective analysis of that.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, this concludes our presentation. Thank you all for coming, and thank you.